Hey everyone, welcome. Happy Friday. Oh, look at that. Did it right on time, at least as far as my clock goes.
That's awesome. Getting ready for it. So.
Hi, Anaman. I see you there. I'm just trying to type. Let's see. I think, oh, that's the register. I think this is the one that brings you right in.
Okay, so this actually worked, supposedly. And yes, this worked. Now, we just have to test it on your end soon. So it actually worked. But yeah, it's really annoying. I'll have to figure out what happened there.
Hi.
Hey, John.
How are you doing?
Good. And you?
Everything good?
Yeah, good.
So, let me, while I'm thinking about it, just ping Tom and see if he's coming around. We did get a couple questions submitted, so I'll start with the one that I had taken care of just because it was a simple one. I think it was by Sam. Let me share my screen. And in the question, they were saying they're trying to use AutoHotkey to replace, in this example that he provided, a dash.
Oops, excuse me.
He's using a command instead of a function. So the first thing I do, I just much prefer functions over commands. So I brought them into using functions. And so he provided each one of these. So sometimes he's doing just a regular hyphen. Sometimes it's the N dash, and sometimes the M dash, EM, a little bit longer. And so here, you use the stir replace, and I just put in the content he gave me into the what it's going to search for, the haystack, and then what you're looking for to replace. So I just borrowed from here and put it here. And so now when I run this, you'll see at the beginnings of these, none of these characters are here, right? And that's because I'm telling it to look for each one of these. So my guess, Sam, is if you were trying this, probably had more to do with how you were saving your file, if it was a UTF-8 file versus ANSI or whatever. Also, this is also why, like, using commands, and I don't know if Isaiah or Jean, both of you guys, I know a lot more about the encoding stuff. I prefer doing it this way. I just feel a little more secure with what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I would also agree that the file encoding might have something to do with this. So if you're not really sure, you can always force at the top of your script with one of those commands that is called file encoding, exactly like that. You tell the script how to treat anything that is going to be saved onto a file or read from a file. In this case, if we're just running the script, then it is going to be the default, encoding for our hotkey or how the file was saved. But if you're saving that, it's probably good to just tell AutoHotkey what the encoding is going to be. But using a function over a normal command, yeah, I also rather have that in many instances. Sometimes you can't in AutoHotkey version 1. So yeah, that.
Yeah. But also you could, you wouldn't even have to store it. Now in his examples, he was using the clipboard, and I could have done this all with the clipboard, but I just put it all into a variable just because it was a lot easier in cleaning. But yeah, so that was the simple one. Now the second question came from someone asking about a GUI issue, and Isaiah, why don't you first, because I didn't realize at first that the person had submitted an actual script. Let me stop sharing.
Okay.
And then once you show, hopefully you have the original, and then you can talk through what you found. And then I'd like John to kind of show how in QAP you could do, I don't know if you can have the preview mode, but you could do a lot of this without even creating your own GUIs, which to me is really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the whole system here. Let me just 1 second. Two. Okay, let me share my screen real quick. So this is what I've got, and this is the original script made. I'm not sure what the name of the person is, so I'm not. I haven't made any changes to the script. Well, I did some changes yet, but I haven't shown them yet. So right now, as it stands, the script will not work. So if I go ahead and try to run this, I should get some errors. And basically the type of error is described on the message box or the resulting error that you might get. If I go ahead and open this file from the Explorer, so let's go ahead and open it from Explorer. If I try to run it, I should get kind of like a message box saying what the issue is. Now, usually when I face these kind of things, I just go to the line and fix whatever it is one by one, because this file has many little details, many issues. But most of them are related to that. Let's go to that line. This is supposed to be a label, right? But labels cannot contain spaces on them. And so that's the main issue that you're having, is that there's a lot of labels with spaces. So what I'm gonna do, let's go ahead and change those spaces into, just remove that and put a hyphen or just join them, whatever. But basically, by just making sure that the labels are without spaces and variables by themselves as well. So anything that is a variable or a label cannot contain spaces. That means that as I just changed my labels down here, and there's another one here. So I just changed my labels down here to not have spaces. Now I have to go up on the script and make sure that in my GUI, they also do not have it, because basically that's what was going on.
But they also have the underscore that you added, right?
Whatever. Right, exactly. So basically what was going on here, the radio buttons, I think here that he's going to be referring to some G labels, and those G labels must have, this.
The other thing I want to chime in here now, this wasn't in the script, right? But I know it was and it still is confusing to me, but thankfully I use QAP, so I don't have to do this anymore. But when you're building your own menu system, and in the description, you can have spaces. And usually I'll have like a description of what it is. And then my label is very similar to the description, just so I know what I'm doing, right? Well, to your point, in the label, you can't have a space, but in the description, you can. And that's where I would get really confused.
Right. So what I would actually, and let me clarify what you mean by the description. You mean here on for example, he added a radio button. There are some options for the radio button, and right next to it, there's some text. Is that what you're referring to as the description of it?
I was mentioning in a menu.
Oh, okay. So that's in a menu. Okay, on QAP.
So I said he didn't have a menu, but it's very similar where
in a menu. Yeah, it is the same. Yeah, it is true. So just to kind of like focus on this, whenever you're adding options like this, the X, the Y, and you're referring to a G label or a variable in your options, you cannot have spaces in those, because actually the space is treated as the next parameter. So you put X16, then you add a space, then you put Y290, and then you add another space. If you're in a G label and you put a space right there, what is going to happen is that it is going to treat the next part as probably the next parameter, which is not. That's the reason why it's not working.
Zayas, just someone mentioned your font's too small. My guess is they're on a phone, but you do have some space where you could zoom in a bit.
Yes, of course. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. So I think that's better, maybe.
Yeah, that's as good as it can get. That's for sure. Yeah.
So basically what is going on is the G labels here, whenever he was setting up the G labels and whenever he was setting the labels down here, they were having spaces. That was part of the issue. So if I try to run this again, I would have other issues. Like, for example, there is a label that is duplicated, the OF name. So basically, of course, you cannot have duplicate labels. And what is going on here on lines 160 and 168 is that here on the top, he was referring to two different edit controls, and he set different G labels for them. But he probably didn't update the name down here. So let me go ahead and verify what it was.
Which is the other thing I'd like to bring up is, some of the stuff would be caught with just using Notepad as your default editor, right?
Right.
However, using like Visual Studio, using AutoHotkey Studio, using Cite, even Notepad++, like it would make this so much easier to spot.
Right. So basically, let me double check which one is the one that is missing. So he has that one. He has this one here. Right. So let's just do the following. Let me just first comment that out. That would fix the error. And if I'm missing a G label, I would be notified of that. And here it says line 183, the mouse get command is wrong. So it seems to be that he was doing some tests, and by mistake, there was something introduced there. So I'm just gonna comment that line out for now and figure out what happened. So now here's what it goes. Like, there's a label that doesn't exist. So line 18, I go to line 18, and he's referring to GF name var. So notice that he had one that said an O on front and another one that didn't have the O on front. So the duplicate label down here, it was probably because one of them was without the O and the other one was with the O, and thus he forgot to fix that part. So let's just fix that. When I keep trying, I get that there's a label that doesn't exist. I'm sorry?
Well, I was going to say, Isaias, also, and I don't know, I think VS Code does this. If you click select, put your text in one of those labels.
Yeah, it would actually show you wherever that is. So whenever I put GUI, all the GUIs are highlighted and on the right side as well. So yeah.
Well, Studio, what I like about it is if there's no other instance of it, it won't be underlined. If there's another instance, it'll be underlined. Now,
so if there's something that is not highlighted, well, what I would search for is if it is highlighted here on the right side.
But my point is, you don't have to. Studio.
No, okay, yeah.
Except for in your example here, because you have the G up above, and down here you don't, right? It wouldn't work in that sense, right? But it's just another thing. Use a good editor, it can really, you can spot these things and go, wait a minute,
why is that not, why is that not working? But in any case, I do let me try again. Let me see where we are. We are missing one email thing here. So what he's doing in one of the radio buttons here, manual email probably. So discretionary manual, that label doesn't exist. What I would do is just find one of the others, see what he's trying to do, and just copy it. But for now, as I don't know what he's doing, I will just make a return there. I'm just going to create the label so that the program does not complain about it. Hit F9. And now the GUI shows up. So again, there were a lot of little details to make this happen. But what is going on is mainly those spaces that you were missing, some labels that were missing, some labels that were created incorrectly. After you do that, your GUI is going to show. And then what I did was to double check on the send commands. So those buttons, I'm going to find the buttons. So I have 3 buttons, and each of them is actually targeting a specific label. So I would just double check on the label that is being referred to, and I will see what it's doing. So the letters file just sends alt tab. It seems to go to the other window and then just sends a text. That's okay. That is going to work fine. The other one, the MR request printed, I think it does something similar. It alt tabs and sends something else. When you're sending text that is exactly, you know, like you're sending something that doesn't have to do with the GUI, you do not have to submit the GUI anyways. It doesn't do anything, but basically you don't have to. And the last one, and this is the one that was a little bit different. This one is one that submits the GUI and sends a specific variable. So that variable is the one that he's working with up here. Every time you click a radio button, seems to be that it grabs some information and sets it here on the variable. Now, those actually rely on the variables that you have on your GUI. This is when you actually need to do the GUI submit no hide. So because now you want to get the GUI's information, okay, and set it on your variables. It seems to be that he was not doing that, and probably that is the reason why none of that was working. So he was submitting the GUI when he didn't have to, and when we needed to submit the GUI, he was actually not submitting it. Now, if I do that, right, I just added the GUI submit no hide to all of that so that the variables can contain whatever they need to. If I press F9 and set some test data, name, last name, and I want to kind of like stop when you click on one of those. So let's go ahead and do this. Full set of MR. So let's double check on that. Full set of MR is the one that I want to double check. So I'm going to go to that label, I'm going to stop right about here. And when I click on it, my script should stop. And that's what I want to double check the variables now. When I go ahead and move my mouse on email, now my variables, Mr. Name, it is read from my GUI. So from test name, test data, that's the things that I actually put there, and so on. So basically, there's a few things. The effective date looks incorrect. The name and last name is taking first name from here and last name from the other one. So it is kind of like getting the information from the wrong locations. But the idea is the main part that was not working was the GUI submit no hide. You have to use that before using the variable names on your email text. So that's what was not working. You know, the main part of your script that was not working. So every time he's actually typing on those things, he's actually getting the values, seems to be, but that is not really needed at that point. So again, I think with that, you should have at least an idea of where to go to. And for fixing it, I would just run the script, see the line that is being affected, and just go ahead and change that one by one until my script works. I will just save this up and send it via the links that we usually send to get the scripts. And
you throw that on a gist. That's, you know,
right. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the gist, and that will have the changes already made. So you could just go ahead and read it a little bit better and figure out if there are some other changes that you want to do. So
put the link to the
I will.
To the GUI's course at the top.
So I have that.
Don, did you want to demonstrate at least? Because after I realized and saw the script there, I'm like, oh, there's there's several edit fields, but do you still want to demonstrate with QAP how you could do like a mail merge with pre-formatted text and piping in some information or something?
Yes, there's a lot because this script is very custom. So what can do with QAP is far from having something as customized with all these options. I still didn't get what the script was doing. In fact, is it sending an email or building a text to send an email?
Well,
I don't know.
No.
It looks like
you don't have any information on that.
Okay, hard to tell. What QAP, Quick Access Pop-up, can do is to create snippets where you can insert placeholders, and a few types of placeholders can be useful in the context of building a text that would be sent, for example, in an email, to insert the current date, to insert the content of your clipboard, and to show an input box where you can ask a question and have this question being replied. So that's the kind of thing that can be done in Quick Access Pop-up that I could demonstrate. I would not present it as an alternative to anything that would be done by the script where we were looking at. But if we don't have other AutoHotkey questions, I could proceed with this if you wish.
Yeah.
Are we good? Are we good? Okay. So I reduced the resolution of my screen just in order to make this maybe more visible for LCD screens, as we've seen on the chat. So that's a Quick Access Pop-up, a fresh version. So that's the default menu that you get when you install Quick Access Pop-up. Then you can customize it. I will add here a snippet. And we'll name it email text. And let's start simple. Hi, how are you? So very simple email. I'll put the separator here, so save it. And if I have Notepad open here, I can insert this text in Notepad. And of course, if I was in Gmail or Outlook, it could be the, whoops, what have I done? It could be the text of the body of your message. What we can do in this is to insert placeholders. So we have the placeholders help here. So we can click this page, contains a lot of information that will help us. So one of the placeholder that you can use is clipboard. So for example, if in your clipboard you have the name of the person, so let's say that I will just create a new, no, I'll use the same here. So if I put Joe Glines here in my clipboard, so I cut this, so now it's in my clipboard. And I want to say here, hi, Joe Glines, how are you? So what I can do in the snippet, so I'm back in Quick Access Pop-up in the Edit Snippet dialog box. Here, I will insert the placeholder clipboard. I save it. And now, if I paste this, it will say I, Joe Glines, because this is the current content of my clipboard. Of course, if my clipboard contains anything else, it will insert what's in my clipboard. So I copied the whole text in my clipboard. So I have the text is duplicated because I copied the whole content. So if you know that in the current moment you have something in your clipboard that will be used in your email, that's one of the things that you can do. So that's the clipboard. Second example that can be useful in an email is the location of the file is more used when you have favorites for folders or files, documents, things like that. We want to see this. Current folder is the same kind of placeholder. Selected file also. very useful, but in other contexts than building a text. Here, you can insert the current date and time. So if I enter this here, it will insert the current date and time with the format that is specified here. So we can go back to this just in a moment, see how it works. I'll return to edit. So I can make this a little larger. So it will write, this is now, and now it will enter the, it's not now, it's today, because it can include time or not. In this case, today is, and I will save it. So it will just insert the date. So today is 2022-04-22. And this is the format that is displayed here, because that's the one that was specified in the placeholder. You could use only the name, only the hour, a lot of combinations that are possible that you can find if you go on the AutoHotkey documentation. The format that is used is the same that is used for the command format time. So you have all these possibilities here, including using long date, short date, that are pre-built formats that you can use here. So this, the current date that can be inserted. You can have some date and time calculation. We've seen that in a few weeks ago. That was one of Joe's suggestions for quick access pop-up. So that's the format. So I'll take an example here. So if we want to say today, but not today, tomorrow, so we say +1D. So let's change my snippet here for now. And before the column that you have here, you can insert calculations that will be plus or minus days, month, years, so seconds, if you wish, so this will become tomorrow. Will be. Okay, save. And tomorrow will be, whoops, an issue here. What's wrong? So we're back to the reality of doing something live. Last week it was too easy, so we have to pay this week.
Yeah, we have to make the change.
I think I have the right version. Maybe I'm not using the latest release. I'm using a demonstration area. So I'll be back to, don't want to take too much time for that. I'll check for that later. So this is date calculation that has been added really to the latest release. So there's also the, oh, we skipped one. It's the input from the user. So here you can, in your placeholder, instead of using the keyboard to say Joe, input prompt. So input is the command to say, show an input box to the user, and prompt will be what is displayed to ask these questions. And so let's show this first. So I launched the snippet. So before typing the snippet, it's asked for a name. So if I put Isaias, it will say, hi, Isaias, tomorrow will be a date that should be well displayed. And also, if you want to reuse the input that you entered, so here, I want to say, how are you, Isaias? So I can reuse this without the input command. So the prompt here of this command becomes a variable that you can reuse in your script. This was also added in the last release, so I hope I still have the good version to show this. Tom. Okay, so I'll have to check the version I'm using to do this demonstration, but here it should show Tom. So I'll just check for that and maybe just do an update for this to confirm that it should work.
The video we did, John, was the I think I titled it save time using placeholders in your snippets with QAP. Is that the one that because I know we did a video on this. Is this like the right video?
Don't remember. Is it about time calculation or?
No, but it's just doing, I'm just saying of getting user input and, having it get put into your snippet.
Yeah, that's what we just seen here using this.
Right. I'm just saying we covered this in the video. I was just going to link to the video so people can see.
I don't remember. Yeah, don't remember. We've done so many.
Yeah.
So maybe you have other questions to look at, and I'll just check for my little issue.
And I saw Colo had a question about, and I'm glad you joined, Colo, because I wasn't quite clear what you were saying. If you want to explain what you're doing, you need to unmute yourself if you can talk.
Yeah, 1 second. I don't know how to really use Zoom.
Yeah, no problem. We can hear you fine.
1 second.
Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. So you mentioned you want to be able to look for scripts in a folder?
Yes, target it with arguments. My screen just froze.
Of course.
That's okay, yeah.
It
happens.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh, there we go.
I'm
awesome.
I would like the user to start the program by clicking this.
Sure.
That will just run the main script with arguments. But if the user changes the name of this, how should I do it?
Oh, okay. So what you're trying to, so when you say that you wanted to click, can you show me again? Because I didn't see, where did you want to click to run the script? So when you double click the start, it would actually load a different script, but even if the name of the script changes, then you want to be able to, okay.
Yes,
so,
it should avoid the extension, like the user might add
a different, and how about the location? Is the location is going to be right next to the start script, or is it going to be in different locations?
Just by the script.
So right next to it. So in that case, what you could...
but the script might generate other files like
right. That's
data.
Yeah. What if there are 10 other files in that folder?
Mm-hmm. So, well, the problem here is to identify which one you want to run, because if you allow me just a second,
you could use
look through the files.
Loop through the files, read a file line to see, so you basically hide something in the script you want to run at a certain line, right? And then you loop over every file and say, hey, does the first line have this text? If so, that's the one I want. If not, go to the next one, right? That's probably how I would do that.
Kind of like a command. Let me, and that's the thing. I would show you, but I don't know if you would allow me to control.
Someone in the chat told me.
I could show you mine.
Someone in the chat said a nice idea.
Let's see. What do they say? You have targeted by size. Well, that's what I'm understanding, but what you're saying is that
this actually
specific
better.
The first few bytes to check. Again, the one problem is does the user have a specific file that they want to run, or is it something random that like your script is going to look for any file, any specified file? The only thing is that you don't want to find it by name. That's the only thing. Is that file going to change is my question.
Yes.
Your
So,
main
right.
script. Yeah.
So let's name these things. The start.ahk is going to be your main script. That is going to be a launcher for somebody else, for other scripts, right? Now,
Don't call it
a launcher, I would say like, what?
Yeah, you said it's going to be your main script. I'm like, don't call it main script. The other script's called main script.
No. That's why I'm trying to rename those things. So this is the launcher script. This is going to launch a main script, right?
It's your starter. Yeah.
Right. now the main script can have different names, right? That's the first thing. But is it always going to be the same script, or can it change? Like the user can change that to something else. Like, can it be a totally different script beside the name?
I don't really get it.
Is the content of the file named main script, is that going to change in file size and what's in it? Is that ever going to change?
No.
Oh, so
be like that.
That is going to always be the same. The only problem is that it might be, the only thing that might change from it is the name. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the name might change, but the contents of it is always going to be the same. Okay, fine. So in that case, and I noticed that you just compiled it. Is it going to be compiled, or is it going to be?
Yeah, just like that.
Just like this. Okay.
Final product.
Right. So this is the final product. Now, main script can be something else. Now, if it is compiled, again, there's a few things. You can have, because the compiled script is also a text file. So are you going to be the one who compiles the script, or are they going to you are going to compile it? Okay, so here's the thing. The main script is, as Joe was mentioning, that's the best solution. But I would do it if it is compiled, it's a little bit different. But yeah, you might on your main script add a comment line, okay? Or well, the comment gets deleted when you compile, actually.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, the comments get deleted when you compile it. Let me think of, oh yeah, an attribute. That's what you could do. So can you right click on main script, please? Main script, click on properties at the bottom. And where it says details, you see where it says details? Here, you can actually change anything from this, like the file description. You can switch it or change it. And I think there is a way to programmatically access those things. So in the file description, I might actually add a specific keyword or something, or the file name, like the product name. I would just set it whatever I want. And even if they change the name of the file, so let's go ahead and try that. So if you go ahead and rename main script to whatever you want. And you right click on it. If you right click on it and go to properties, the properties of the file should be exactly the same. It doesn't matter. The name doesn't matter. But the properties of the file here, they always going to stay the same. You get the idea, right?
Maybe so it's modified.
Right. No, the date it was modified will change, of course, but the product name and file description, if they haven't been changed, just by changing the name, those two are not going to change. So your script might read those two file properties, or one of them, and use it to identify the script, even if they changed the name. So what we're going to do, if you allow me just a minute, I will show you how you could do that. So there is a file.
Put a link in to YouTube. The FileX Pro from Scan gives you over 1,000 file attributes you can read.
For example. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Well, with that tool, you can read file attributes. And the point would be, let me show you, the compiler comments is the one that allows you to set that. So let me go ahead and do this.
I would also consider, I mean, couldn't you, at the bare minimum, make that a hidden file or something? Which would just.
But I think he just said like kind of like the final product is going to have the executable there. The only thing is that they might change the name. Is that
Right.
what I'm understanding? Or just
Yeah.
hide it completely?
I never expected the.
I'm just saying the average person doesn't understand any of that crap, right? So just hiding it alone might negate the whole
Basically, if it is a file that you don't want your users to modify, what I usually do is that I save it in. So when the user double clicks the script, I file install that into the local app data folder in a place in there. And I would just use that always from that location and not from the script itself. So the user never sees that file, even installed on their computer or bundled with the program. So when I compiled my main script, it just has the file in there and just puts it somewhere else, and they don't even see it. But in any case, this what I'm actually talking about, and here's what I'm looking for, a description. So let me show you something that I want you to kind of like test right now.
In Colo, I'm just curious, are the people doing this stuff, do you think they're inadvertently not meaning to do it, they rename it, or they're purposely trying to get around something? I'm just curious.
No, they're just I don't know how to say it. They don't know what they do.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It just happens. It's not on purpose. So I just sent you on the Zoom chat what is called a compiler directive. Let's add that to your script before you compile it. So if you can go ahead and do that, please. Oh, well, yeah, you Jan already sent it. Right. Perfect. That's great.
Wait, like that in the compiler GUI.
So no, don't do that. So just close that, close all those. You see where it says different exe, that script, can you have the main script, the script without like the original script before compiling it? So create a new script.
It doesn't matter, it was
yeah, exactly. So let's just go ahead and create a new one. Just go there.
Okay.
Edit it. You can just go ahead and edit the script. Right. Now here, just add that comment that we were sending. And actually you can use the one that John sent, is the whole thing. He sent like the set of things that you can change, but that's it. So now go ahead and compile this script, just save it and compile it. But don't delete the original if you can.
Yeah.
So we could just, now go ahead and take a look at the properties of that file. Just right click on it, properties. And if you go to details, notice that the description now has that keyword so you can put a keyword there. Then we can use the tool that Joe was referring to read that, because right now AutoHotkey has a few commands that read some of the key values. Like for example, the time when it was created, the size, those are things that you can, and the version. I think like file read version, file read time, file read size. Those are commands that AutoHotkey has to read those definitions. But I don't think you can read the description just with a command. So we could use the tool that Joe was referring to read the description itself, and you can hide a value there. So no, it doesn't matter now if you change the script name or whatever you do, that description, that file description is always going to be there. So that's a way that you can do that.
I see.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
incidentally, like I did a video a while back on Excel, how you can, Excel has ways to write different tags basically for their files as well. You can write them and read them. I think it was with the Excel COM object that I was using. But they're different than these, is my point. Yeah, thanks, Sean, for sharing that. It was cool. Anyone else have something they're working on? I don't think I've seen anything here in the questions. But yeah, reading a few bytes of the thing, once set your script the way you want it, go get those values and then go check for those values. That probably is not terrible to do.
Good afternoon, guys. Sorry I'm late.
Okay.
Again.
Hi.
Okay, that actually fixed my issues, so I'll have to go now.
Okay, we'll talk later.
I actually have to go.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how you get the description in AutoHotkey. So there, you mentioned a tool, but is it something that can be done using AutoHotkey to retrieve this description?
Are you talking about the one I'm talking about, Jean?
The file description that we just change in the executable file.
Yeah.
How can we get this property? At first, I thought that file getAttrib would return something, but no, it's only the archive or read-only attributes. So that's not what we're looking for.
Joe, you were referring to something specific. You were referring to a tool that was able to allow you to read the descriptions, right? Like the attributes of a file.
It's got like 1,300 attributes, I think, that you can read depending on the file type, right? Like, so if it's a video file, certain ones will be available. If it's a picture, certain things will be available.
Yeah, but for executable?
Right? For any file.
Yeah.
So let me get you, allow me just 1 second. If we do not have a tool for that, let me show you the one that I usually use. So
it's in my library, Isaias, which you could
okay.
I'm sure it is.
Let me double check on something. So
well, as I was double checking on something, can I ask just a question that I think will interest a lot of people? With regards, is it quicker to run AutoHotkey as an exe or as a AHK file? Does it make a difference when it's running on the machine?
So negligible.
It don't.
Yeah.
There is no difference on it.
No. Compiling is just binding together the runtime and the source file. Yep. So the source file is being executed by the part of the file that is the runtime. So so that's exactly the same. It's only for convenience that you will compile, in fact, not to get any performance.
You can add the set batch line just to -1, which might help it a tiny bit be a little faster. But usually it's honestly the stuff that when something's going slow, it's not that AutoHotkey is going slow. It's waiting for something to happen or whatever. It's not, unless you're doing billions, and billions of things.
I would say like the main idea behind compiling a script is just for sharing. So in your computer, you have the AutoHotkey interpreter, and you can run an AHK file like that. But if you try to send that to somebody that does not have AutoHotkey installed, it's not going to work. So that's the main idea behind compiling. There's nothing else regarding that.
Perfect. So the other question that leads on from that is
before you go ahead on. I'm sorry.
Joe, you're going to show something. Are you ready?
No, I want us to ask Joe. Do you remember the name of the library before I continue?
For my head.
No, I don't know what it is.
It's FileX Pro.
FileX. So with
it was right there. I was staring at it. It was right on your screen.
Oh, there we go. Here you go. So this is one of them. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, so you can continue with your question now.
But I would have just a second before about the description, reading the description. I haven't found how to get it from an executable file, but if we create a shortcut to the file, you can get the description from the shortcuts. I just posted the command on the Zoom chat. So there's maybe another approach to what you describe. Instead of changing the description of the executable file, maybe create a shortcut, and the shortcut would contain a description that you can change easily, because shortcuts can be changed easily. And you could look at what is the description of the shortcut that is being launched. So not sure if it's a full solution for what Colo was looking at, but it's just another thing to investigate. Okay, Guy.
So the other question is, I'm interfacing to a program that I've got to use the ACC path to get various bits of information, and it's actually very slow. I was wondering if there's any way of speeding it up. And that's why I asked the question whether it's executable or not. Actually, a method that works a lot quicker is the AMT, automate my task, with pixel recognition. That works a lot quicker, but it's less reliable. So it's you know, is there a way of speeding up the ACC by path getting the you know, values?
So
That's a very nebulous question, because it's like saying, is there a way to speed up this regex I wrote? Well, it depends what you did with it.
Okay.
So it's a hard question to answer just straight away, no, but you know, it depends what you're doing with it. And maybe you're doing something that where it's, maybe there's a faster way to get a pointer to the, you know, the things that you're looking for instead of looping over everything or something, right? So
well, I'm using the standard ACC library. Yes.
Right, but there's different methods, there's different things you can do with it, is what I'm saying, right? So
indeed.
Okay.
So we'd have to look at the code, is the point, right?
Okay. Well, the code is a standard ACC library. What I'm doing with it is I've found the path that I need to get to, because with this program, it's the only way I can do that, because, you know, there's no static names that I can attached to. So I've got a choice. I can either use pixel recognition on the screen, or I've got to use the path, which is more reliable, rather than using pixel recognition and then OCR, you know. However, pixel recognition and OCR is actually quicker than doing it by path, which is like weird.
But my point is still, even with the ACC library, it's a vast library, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff in there. You're taking one approach at getting what I would refer to as the handle, whatever the path, the documentation of what it is, right? Maybe you don't need to use that approach in the ACC library. There are other ways to get that information.
Okay. I'm using as ACC get. Let me find it.
Right. But also, if this is the same exact thing in the same spot, I told you, like, you can use controls and then loop over the controls that are changing to get the one that has the right value you want, and then use a control get. It's just the controls dynamic. Is this the same issue we had?
Yeah. The controls are dynamic in play. That, you know, they're in the window name changes, the control name changes. It's only the control location that doesn't change. Yeah, so ACC works beautifully, and I'm just trying to think. There's I get the object by ACC get, and it gives me the value and the name of the object at that point in time. It also gives me the location if I want to click on it. But the numbers I get, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 10 of 13 or 14 levels deep. You know, the numbers it goes is like 4.7 point whatever. There's about 10 of them. It's not just 2 or 3.
Yeah, I've told you several times, Guy, you can use controls to get this. You would get the listing of all the controls, because it's dynamic, right? And then you loop over all the controls and figure out which one is the one you want. And this will be, and then you're not using OCR. You can get the location and get the text programmatically using controls.
I can, but what I found is that the controls are actually hidden, but they're still there. So there's like 15 different layers on top of each other. They're just not visible. Is it possible to figure out if a control is visible or not just by doing that method?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, by different levels of controls.
Well, using the ACC, I can get values of controls that are not visible on the screen.
But I'm not referring to using ACC.
I know, but with ACC, so the method you describe is basically loop up all of the controls and trying to figure out what they are,
Okay, so let me try to join in there. So there are different methods that you can do this, and finding the right one is a lot of work. So what we're going to do is the following. Let me go ahead and show what I was going to show, because now I found the library that I was referring to. Perfect. And I was just testing something, and later on we can find a way to kind of like get all the controls, because the problem is that question depends completely on the program that you're using. Yes. So you would have to give us the program. We would have to actually test it.
I had downloaded it. And I tested
it. So that's something that it is going to be like, that's a very long topic right there.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's do this. I was testing both of the libraries. The one that I usually use, and this is the part that I was going to show, is the file version library by Scan. So these two functions are by Scan. This second one, I haven't tested it, so I'm not really sure how it works. But both of them are from the same guy. The file version one is a very short and sweet function that you can use to get properties. Now, the way how the properties are saved is weird, but by default, it reads the file description. I don't know if you can just simply change this part here and do whatever you want. But for the testing that we were talking about a few minutes ago, this should do the trick. You just go ahead and let me just 1 second. Let me remove the other part. So this whole thing can be just commented out. Let me just remove this. So you just use the option file version, the path to the file that you're referring to, and it by default is going to read the description on it. And when you run it, it would show whatever description that file has when you go ahead and take a look at the details. So that should be easy to do. Now you can get other values by passing the descriptor of it. And I think the function, when you go to the forum, he actually gives some examples of it. So if you go to the forum, I'll link to it. It actually gives you some descriptions of what you can do. It looks like you changed the last part where it says comments, but this descriptor right there, I'm not really sure about what that means. So I haven't tested. If I just want to read the description of the file or the file version, this is really fast because it automatically does that by default. But I would assume that if you do something else like the file version or something, there should be a way for you to just pass a descriptor to it to go ahead and do it.
Isaias?
Yes? I
found something interesting built on top of what Scan did on the forum, so I could share my screen and show it to you.
Go ahead and do that.
And I have a full tutorial on the FileX Pro of how to go and
pass different. So I was going to go through that one too, but yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that first.
Yeah, and the name of the library is get file version, in not the library, but the function, and I'll put the link to on the YouTube channel, the link to this page.
Just in case you're not sharing your screen, by the way.
Oh, I thought I was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just one step missing. Here we go. So that's on the forum. So I just posted the link to this specific post in a thread that was, I think, started by Scan. So this one here, get file version info, what it's doing, and I will share it here. So what it's doing, it's a function that receives the file name, and then it will build an object that will contain every property that can be retrieved from the file. Okay, and the list of properties are here. So for example, there's comment, there's company name, product version, file description, the one that we are interested in, but any other could be also interesting. So there's an example here by running this with the regex program that is in the Windows directory. And I'm adding after that dot, then the property that I want to retrieve.
Exactly.
And after that, there will be another, so I will just put here. And after that, it will loop into every property that can be retrieved from these files. Of course, it could be the file that you created and used the compiler to put your own information. So let's run this. So the description is éditeur du registre, which is in French, but that's the registry editor. So that's what we retrieve from all these properties that are shared by info. And after that, you have the company name, which is Microsoft, description, file version, internal name, legal copyright, original name, I don't know what it is, product name, version. So that's all the property.
Right. So if you go to the regedit, the regedit executable and right click on it, you should find that same information there, right?
Yeah. Let's just try to find it quickly.
I like that this one returns an object actually.
Yeah, and you can choose any
a specific key for that.
You do that with the FileX Pro too, I believe.
So under details, we all have all this information here that can be set when you compile a file.
Right.
So that's still the scans script, but just enhanced by another users that just made it to compile every property in one object.
Can I share again?
Yeah, I'll just stop my sharing here.
Okay. Now, so Joe, let's go ahead and take a look at the FileX Pro. So the point is I have never used that one before, so I was not able to, I didn't know exactly what to do, but FileX Pro, I assume that I could actually, not delete the file, by the way. So I would say FileX.
Well, here's the thing, I think we've already solved this.
All right, but I wanted to know.
And I have a video on it.
Oh, okay.
And we don't have so much time for people to ask live questions. So
let's do that. Yes.
That's the only reason. It's really the reason why is we have questions in color left. I think we've answered this. Also, I think just his general approach, like there's other things going on besides getting this information, right?
All right.
So sorry. Yeah. Let's just get back to Guy. Yeah. And I'm not, I'm just saying that it is a cool function. Don't get me wrong. His example in the forum, the very first one was ridiculously complex, which I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have started with that one. But, it's a powerful tool. Anyway, so Guy, let's get back to you.
I'm sorry, I might be jumping the queue. Are there other people that have been here?
No, you're good. It's just Colo already left, and I think he had a solution to what he wanted. So we haven't answered your question, so that's just why I wanted to get back.
So, and part of Isaiah's thing is you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. I've educated myself a lot on AutoHotkey, especially during lockdown. I've enjoyed it, and as my photography business gets busy, I'll be doing less and less, and I'll be subbing some work out to people. But while I still have some time, it's actually a distraction, and it's a nice thing to do to get away from people when I'm coding. I zone out, and then the world can go jump, and I'm in there, and it's so. I think a lot of techie people are like that too. So it's something that I'd like to keep a handle on as well. So back to the issue was, it's just one program that has fascinated me. Even I've talked to the developer. He doesn't know how it's done. It's done by the language he's written it in. He's not set things on purpose that way. So can I share a screen? Is that allowed? As long as there's no, okay.
No privileged information, right?
I'll basically find my, entry. Okay, so you'll see my name and address and my phone number. So I don't have a problem with that. If someone wants to, turn up on my doorstep, it's a shop. So Okay, where are we? Share a screen. Share a screen. Where's my Zoom gone?
Spread the good word.
Okay, so I'm sharing a screen. So here we go. Okay, now this is the program, and as you can see, it's a standard CRM. Okay,
Yeah.
Each
Well-
each one of these dots, each one of these points is an ACC. I've got the address for it on ACC, so I can go. Well, I need the third phone number. I can pick it up.
Okay.
But when I go and read all these, it takes it about 45 seconds to go and read the whole screen.
Mhm.
If I do it your way, which I did with tabs, as in, click on the first one, read it, hit tab, read on the next one, hit tab, and basically scrape the data off just using the keyboard shortcuts, it takes about 15 seconds to do the whole screen.
Okay, hold on. And I would, because what happens is probably that your script is not saving the path for each location. And every time you run it, it's kind of like reading every single one of the controls, finding for one of those controls.
Well, I have saved it. So let me give you an example. I'll pop into the script. And it's down here somewhere. There we go. Put these. I have created 2 objects or 3 objects. One that has the name of let's do it this way. It's got to be phone 3. There we go. So I've created 2 arrays or 3 arrays. One has the name of each field. And the other one has the location of each field.
Okay.
So, and then the third one contains the value in each field.
Okay.
So if I say, for I equals the particular field I want, yes, get me everything else I need from it. So I'll just got to loop through these. So I've done my research and figured out which.
I'm sorry. So hold on. Every time you need information from one of these, for example, first name.
Yes.
You have to actually loop through those 3 arrays?
No, just I only need to look at it once. For instance, first name is my second index. So I need to find the second index of these 3 arrays. Sorry, the 2 arrays.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 3 arrays, and that's all I need to look at.
Right. And basically, just in general, this is a parenthesis for anybody who's watching this. If you have these kind of situations, I would actually recommend you using an object instead of an array, because the object, you can save the information as one key and have the values that you need. But that's something that...
Well, and that's something that I'd love to learn. Again,
right.
I don't know what I don't know, so thank you.
No, don't worry. So that's good. It is better to use an object instead of 3 arrays, but I will talk about that later. Now,
okay.
In your case, so can you show me the code where you use these arrays? So just copy one of them, just copy the contact field names array name.
Okay.
And find it in your code, so I can see what you're doing.
Okay.
So just copy LB.
Here we go. So here it is. First of all, I go and load up the. I've got to make sure that the array is populated with the data.
Hold on. I'm sorry. And you do that every time you.
Right. I do that every time I call. Maybe I only need to do that at the beginning of the program, not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You just do it once. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if I basically I is the index of what I need. So if I'm looking for instance, phone, I know that it's index number 7. So it'll say, go and find me the value of what's index number 7.
Yes.
And there are a few quirks. So, there's some that I've figured out, but here, this is the bit that actually goes and gets all the values.
So here's the part that I'm at. So can you scroll up a bit?
So I could speed it up by moving this to the beginning of the code.
Well, not really, because setting those arrays do not take that much time anyways.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. So that's okay. You got your values and all that. So now, object from point. You are getting an object from, isn't it, instead of object from path, Joe? Isn't that better?
I don't recall.
Right. So because object from point, I assume it is from the XY position of your mouse, isn't it?
Well, vchild is 0. And 99.9% of the vchilds are all 0 in this particular.
Okay.
I just copied that. That's why I set it as 0 here.
So now you got the ACC path, okay? And then you get the object from the main child, okay? With that ACC, okay? Then you get the location. So that ACC get should be extremely fast, because if you already have the path of the thing, it should return that object right away. Now, what does go sub coordinate to position does? What is that all about?
That turns it from a XY
for the location here
to XY and X. It finds the center. It finds the center of the box for me, so I can just mouse click in the center of the box if I have to.
Okay.
So to Azais's point, if we were troubleshooting, the first thing I would do at line 1548 is put a message box. So that way, you know, when you do it,
how fast, how fast are you getting it, right?
Yeah. Where is the slowdown, right? This is
the slowdown. The slowdown is there. That's where the slowdown is.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. So
this is 3 lines of code.
No. So let me. But that's not really the main idea here. So here's the thing. Maybe the slowdown is in line 1540. You see, when you're getting object from point, that might take a little while to get. I don't think so, because it is the child 0. But when you do that, is it loading the whole screen? Maybe that's one of the issues.
I do not know. I do not understand the technology here. I just know that if I use it works for me.
You don't have to. It's okay. But
No,
you could put a message box with a timer after each one of those things.
So here's where my understanding kind of like, that's the part where I would tell you have to research a little bit. From line 40, I'm not really sure how that is needed, because so what are you going to do with the OACC variable? What is that doing?
Where's it being used?
And actually, it is actually being replaced.
So I think I can comment that out, and I think that would help.
Because you're actually commenting that you're actually replacing it on line 1545. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe that is part of what is making it slow, because I don't see on anything else. I do not see anything else that might do this, make it so slow as you're describing, like 45 seconds. I would say like this object from point, maybe that would be the main issue there.
Well, I think it's been replaced 3 lines down. It's being replaced.
That's what I mean. So if it is being replaced, then you don't need that line at all.
Okay.
So if you comment that out and then just try it again, what are your results? Can you double check on that?
I can't, because I had a separate test routine that I had. So I'll have to report back on that. But again, I don't understand the technology. So now that I've actually sat down and analyzed it, you're right. The OCC is repetitive and unnecessary.
And it is being replaced, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the main issue there.
Yeah.
And in my from my experience, when you're getting an object from point, there is a calculation that must be going there, right? So if you pass the 0 as a parameter, that means that the whole thing is going to be calculated. That's what I understand. Okay. I'm not sure about that function. I don't know what it does. So my first try would be just comment that line out, because it's being replaced anyways, and see what happens. If you still get a slowdown, then it has to do with ACC get. You see ACC get, those two guys, one of them might be very slow, and you have to figure out which one. I would comment one line at first, like the XY, which I'm not really sure why you need the XY location yet, but maybe you need it. But I would comment that one first, just to see if that's the slow one, because those things like line 1546, I would not expect that line to be slow at all. If you give it a path, right? Yeah. If you give it a path, it would go to that path and get the value of it really quickly. I don't see how that might slow down, you know?
Okay. So I will rerun this. I will rerun this, and you see the get in the object, the location doesn't come back in the object. So I've got to do a separate ACC get to get the location.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's I don't see any of those two being slow, but we never know.
Okay, so I will deal with that, and I think that will help. Now, from a speed point of view, would 3 arrays or 1 object be any quicker, or is it the same?
Well, an object, I would actually use an object because you can use the function that is called hasKey. And when you do a hasKey, that is instantaneous. So if you're looking for a key and you want to verify, because I noticed that you do an if statement, if the object has the key, like the index, if you go up, I think it is up, the first part.
Okay, that's if you go into the subroutine and there's no key, then
no, but that's not it. Right. So, but that's not really what I was referring to. There's a separate part on that, in that section. But here's, if you allow me control for a second.
Yeah. How do I do that?
So let me just send a request.
Okay.
Here.
All yours.
Right. So what I would do is, for example, if I have an object, right, and I would have the name of this guy here.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the ID that I'm going to use, right? And that would contain an object that has the path.
That'll be the first one. The path will be the first one in the array below it.
So that would be so let's go ahead and do that. So that would be the path.
Yeah.
So Guy, the other thing I was just going to say is,
and
you asked a good question of, doing this in an array versus an object and the speed of those things. I don't think there's a big performance difference in the speed, but how you program your code and your understanding and ease of writing stuff, that's where you'll see like, oh, it's so much more intuitive and easy.
The point here is that now, instead of using the number 1, as you were saying, like, should I use if the I is empty, like I is a number, like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Instead of that, you can actually use last name here, like this.
Awesome.
And that, if I just say the path, oh, sorry.
Oops.
Actually, you have kind of like a little, or I have a
hotkey.
Yeah, hot string. So if I do this,
that will give me.
That would give you that number right there. And if I want the value, I just have to see the value, right? So basically, instead of looping or doing anything, I could just use this notation, and basically, as you just mentioned, as Joe just mentioned, now it makes sense. I want the last name value, right? Okay. Or I want the last name ACC path. That makes sense. And later on, a few years down the line, because that's the part that people don't think about, a few months or years later, when you look at your code and you want to fix something, it's going to make sense because you see, the last name path or the last name value is what you want. It's going to be a little bit easier to understand.
Okay.
Now,
so how do I enter a value to a specific part of the object? So
just like this. So you just say, and you just add the value. So ACC get, whatever.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So yeah, it's just gonna store it in there, and that's it. And later on, whenever you want to access it, you just use your object and the last name, and your object might be named whatever you want. So
okay, I think I can.
You can figure it out later, but basically, this is the idea that I was referring to. It is a little bit cleaner. You just get your key value pairs in there.
And nesting them gets to be a little, when you first start doing it, it's a little confusing. But once you get used to it,
once you get the idea of what is going on, it is easier. So basically, once you get the idea of how to, because this is the thing, the array just gives you a linear thing, for each of them, right?
Yeah.
But the object gives you that one name, one key can have an object inside of it.
So here's the thing for you. Can you enter? So if I copy, how do I enter the next, what's a syntax to copy?
Yeah. So
the
just a
next
comma.
first name.
Just a comma. And let's go step by step so that you can kind of like understand what is going on. You see it on the contact field data array, right?
That's where I'm going to read it and put the
Right.
data in.
You can, as an array, not only put strings as you're doing here, right?
Yeah.
You can actually put objects separated by comma. You see that?
Okay.
So I could just say last name equals and the path to it, the ACC path.
Yeah.
Right? And then I have another object that now has first name and another value, right? So instead of just doing strings like you are doing here, you can actually put objects separated by comma. And each of those objects can be objects as well. So I'm just kind of like
you can nest them.
Yeah, I'm just nesting objects. And that's what I did right here. So I have one object, right?
Okay.
That has a key that is contained with an object on it. And if I want to add another key, I just put a comma there. And now I just say first.
You need the
name.
brackets? No, you don't.
No, not yet, because this is the
yet.
next key, right? And now that key is going to contain another object. And now I put a comma and I put my next email.
Okay. Okay.
And I put my next object. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just putting the key and the value of it is an object. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
So it looks a little bit complicated once you start adding values in it. Like
once you figure out the syntax.
But then you just put them in different lines. That's what I usually do. I just put them in a different line. And that makes it a little bit more easy to read. So now I just go for each of them and I just put the ACC path, right?
Okay.
But do yourself
after a little while,
one at a time, and then test.
Right.
it.
So you just do it one at a time. You just put them like that, and basically, as I mentioned previously, this is just. It's not that what you're doing is wrong. It's actually correct. But usually, for the sake of clarity, later on your program, using an object that you can just name the key last value and get the value of it is a little bit easier to read than just contact field array 5. And now everybody's wondering or you yourself is going to wonder what is 5 again?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And basically later on, when you have your ACC library, if it changes location.
Yeah. Basically, you're creating an array that's multidimensional in the object.
Technically,
so,
that's all.
Exactly. So I thought about that, but I didn't know the syntax. And by the time it was quicker for me to write this.
Yeah, of course. That's usually how it goes. You usually write what works first, and then you just go ahead
and then you just go ahead
and.
Again, you've taught me some beautiful stuff. So just because you know it's possible doesn't mean that you can do it. I could have spent 3 days figuring out the syntax, and you showed it to me in 2 minutes.
Right, and not only that, this is not always the best solution. Sometimes your array is the best solution. I'm just giving you a different possibility and why I would personally do that. If you don't want to do it that way, you're not forced to do it.
No. I think from a programmatically point of view, as I'm on the learning curve, I should do it this way, just as an intellectual exercise. In the short run, just removing some of those items, I think, would help.
Yeah. So in any case,
helped a lot.
Yeah, that is something.
Just leave it there, and I'll copy it out.
Yeah.
So we had another question on just in Isaias. I think you can address this quickly. Someone was trying to use image search. I think image search on multiple monitors. Do you have to do something different with AutoHotkey and to tell it to check all the monitors?
No, not exactly. The only thing is that you need to get the location of the X and Y location of the other value. So you can do that with sysget, and it gives you for each monitor the X and Y position of that monitor, and your image search then would conform.
It'll be weird in the sense of when you see the numbers, you're like, what? But it's because it's literally where they are, right?
Yeah. So say, for example, that your monitor is 1920 pixels wide. Okay, so you're going 1920. The second monitor, if you put it on the right side of it, is going to be 1921. So it is kind of like the X position for the next monitor is where the other one ends. So if you're searching for something on the second monitor, You have to know the width of your first monitor, and it would start on the next side. So, or use the sysget command that would give you that. So you just start on that location there.
The first thing I would do though is, if you know the type of window it's going to be on, you could use something to get where the controls are and then the locations of those. Yeah. That way you're not searching everywhere because it's probably contained within a certain window, and that could really improve performance.
Yeah,
I don't use image.
Yeah. Using WinGetPos would return the coordinates of the active window. Could also help to
narrow down. So whenever you're searching for an image, the best idea is to narrow that search as much as you can. So if you are inside a specific program, first get the position and size of that program and try to search within that program in the closest location that you can. That way your image search is not going to take that long.
He said he was using the HK tool. I assume WinSpy is what he's referring to. For getting the pixel mouse location to get the numbers, meaning the locations, I assume also.
Yeah, but remember, if you're in a different monitor, those locations that you see in WinSpy are relative to that monitor. So whenever you're going to do the image search, you actually have to get the information for the second monitor, and then relative to that monitor is what you want to do. So it's a little bit, it's not complex. It's just like something not commonly done.
I posted code on the YouTube channel to get the information about what is your current screen configuration, how many screens you have, what are the locations of each of these screens.
And the X and Y positions.
And screens, you have to know that screens that are on the left of your main screen, the coordinates will be negative. So it could be negative 2000, for example.
Yeah.
For the X coordinates, so you have to figure,
Yeah, so that's the reason why I would actually go ahead and use the sysget command instead of this.
And this script is using sysget command. And also, getting the current position of the current window could help. And there's something that I have also that will return what is the active monitor for this position, but I don't think it's required for what the user wants to do. What he wants to know is, as you said, how to narrow down the search to a given location. So you could get the X and Y of the top left of this window, and then maybe narrow down by adding a given number of pixels on the right or lower, just to narrow down again where the image is to be searched.
Exactly. Did you see? Are you looking at the chat? He said, "Doesn't using chord mode pixel screen allow relative across all monitors?" And we're about out of time here, by the way.
Right. So coordinate mode is just regarding whether you're going to get relative position or absolute position on your screen. But again, think about it as a context. You first need to get the context of which monitor you're working with. And I would do that with sysget. And then I would do anything else with any coordinates that you get, because the coordinates might be a little bit different. They might be off. And I'm not really sure about the coordinate mode being relative to all monitors. I'm not really sure. I haven't tried it because I usually do not. I don't make scripts that search for stuff on the screen.
I think it does, but taking into account that coordinates will be negative number or very big number if it is on the screen that is on the right of your main screen. But it won't change, I think.
I cannot answer that because I usually do not search on the screen. I try, usually the best approach is usually doing some other types of things. But in any case, if you're going that route, what you can do, the coordinate pixel mode screen, for example, then use mouse get position, put your mouse on a different screen, get the mouse position and see and message box that and figure out if actually the positioning changes if you're in one screen or the other, but by using a hotkey or something. If you press control, you would get the mouse position and see and message box it, for example, and see if that switches. I'm not really sure about it, but we could test it.
Well, thanks everyone. Sorry, we got to go.
Yeah. See you next week.
Take care.